Here.
Alvina Kaiser, here. Jimmy LeGrand.
Here.
Erica Smith Payne.
Here.
Corey Strock.
Here.
I'm going to start by welcoming Mr. LeGrand to his first meeting and again to the district. This is a kind of a loose, I don't know if you've participated in one of these before, but it's far less structured and strict compared to the board meetings and stuff. So feel free to jump in and we're not constrained by the Brown Act stuff. So if you've got questions for people that are out there, you're allowed to engage in conversation. So just knock yourself out, but welcome.
So you like Jimmy, right?
He does.
Jimmy, okay.
Jimmy. So I'm going to go ahead and make a quick adjustment to the agenda, and we will move up our principals discussion regarding the high school. So, Mr. Faubert, if you want to go ahead and start.
Page 7 and 8 have the proposal in the packet.
Last month, I came and indicated that we would bring back a proposal to the Facilities Use Committee on possible public track usage. The athletic director and I kind of took a look at our current schedules, athletic schedules and things, and saw what was possible as we move forward. And we put a schedule together. We looked up a sunset calendar to find out what time the sun sets in Mountain House every day from now until beginning of May. And this is a proposal for a pilot to be run and data to be collected over this period of time. And this is just the possibilities. I don't know, the Facilities Use Committee is going to really need to take a look at it and see whether starting out on the 14th of March, if 27 minutes is even useful at all, or whether you want to wait until we get after spring break when it turns into more than 45 minutes. So, I mean, it lays out for you starting on the 14th. You'll notice there's a jump somewhere in here. Well, daylight savings time starts somewhere in the middle of this. So there's a bit of a jump of the number of minutes that's available.
And I don't see the 1 hour jump, so.
I thought it started.
Maybe we started right on, that's why.
I thought so.
We had started putting it together
Or the
before
14th.
daylight savings time, and we're like, this is stupid, there's like 15
line
minutes, and
outside
then we're like,
present.
oh, look, daylight savings time, it just jumped an hour. So there's more minutes of sunlight on those days, and it allows us to give some time. So, I mean, just the highlights of this proposal, it gives the available dates and times of use. The beginning time, 6:45, is about 15 minutes after the last student usage, so it gives us 15 minutes to kind of clear out. It also includes, after the schedule, the public usage rules and best practices, and we would need to post these rules probably right at the entrance in a big sign, as well as several other smaller signs elsewhere with probably a big stop sign, please read before entering track. And it would mean that our public users would be encouraged to supervise one another about the rules, and we would be collecting data, as said on the plan, once or at least once during each of the smaller usages and several times during the day during weekend usage to collect data on, is anybody not following the rules at that time, what's going on, and then whether there's damage or whatnot after the usage times are over. So that's our plan. Just as a side note, I know Jimmy and I talked today a little bit about the plan, just to kind of go over it a little bit. And I maintain that no matter what district I've been in, whenever we have all-weather tracks and fields, they're closed to the public, and so this is pretty unique in allowing usage. And I think Jimmy, speak up if you want to, is pretty familiar with closed.
As we talked about today, every district I've been in, they're locked down. They're locked down tight. The only way you get on them is with a permit. Mm-hmm. So actually in Natomas, believe it or not, they actually had razor wire across the top. Not the look I'm suggesting we go for.
Sorry, I just.
A little bit extreme, but as a good example. And the fences are much higher than Natomas. They were 10 feet roughly.
How many high schools?
Two.
Two high schools.
And both of them were locked down, and you could not get on there without a permit.
So
Just
You're
from
gonna-
my past experience and
You're gonna
former district
find
too.
Mountain House is a
Told him,
special place.
told him.
And, yeah, we have talked about that and shared the concerns about that, so, but I do appreciate you doing that because it is important that it's not just one school district in the East Bay who didn't allow access, that it's important that the public know. This school district is, like a few other things we do, doing things significantly different than other school districts do, so, or at least.
No, I agree with you, and it's definitely worth opening up to the community, just the parks and the schools are pretty much the center of the community from what I've seen, so I think it's a good idea. I just wanna make sure that, obviously, it gets taken care of. So it's a huge capital investment on the part of the district, so we wanna make sure it's taken care of properly.
I have a couple of questions. These times on the proposal, these are times when we already have staff available to.
Yeah, open and close, yeah. So they wouldn't be able to supervise, but they'd be able to open it and then close it at the ending time, yes.
And be.
Around if
vicinity
needed,
to-
yes. If there's an issue or they, hear of something going on, they can be going down there. Yeah, especially on the weekends, there's somebody there, they're working on campus, and the idea is during the pilot time to have them go down several times during the day to ensure that the usage is being done correctly. And again, it's gonna behoove the public that if this plan goes forward, to really educate the public, this is our high school. And as such, there are rules that go along with this, and if people are misusing it, one of the issues is we already have problems with people lifting their pets over the gates on the weekends, and we find dog stuff on the field every week, and we have to go and clean it up, and you have to clean it because it's an all-weather field. And if you just leave it there, you got to pour water on it and make sure, because kids are going to be on there, right? So, we already have some problems, and I'm hoping that maybe if we open it, that people will be a little more cognizant of what's going on, and that there are rules, and that other people will be like, hey man, I want to run on this track. You better stop it, or we're going to get kicked off.
I'm not sure if this is a question for you, Ben, or perhaps for Alvina, but is there a mechanism to post this schedule and be able to update it so that if on a given Saturday,
Right.
the track and or field are being used and the public will not be allowed, so the people don't get down there and say, oh,
I see.
it said that we can run on
And
this
now
day
it's,
at this
now
time,
somebody's
and
rented
now
the field,
somebody's there.
yeah. Absolutely, I mean, there's something that we can establish on our website and a link, I'm sure, on the district website that's a button or something that says, view public track usage hours, and then on there also place all of the restrictions. Please note if you're coming during these times, these are the rules. Obviously, as we get closer and closer into the summertime, there's gonna be more and more hours available during the day, depending on who's there to open and close. But in the summer, it's light outside for quite some time, and there may be some opportunity for usage late into the evening, especially during summertime.
But correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't the custodial staff all work days in the summertime, so they're off at
That's true, yeah.
three
So-
or 4 o'clock?
Right, you'd have to have somebody there, so I didn't think of that. Anyway,
Well, that's something we can address
So that would
after
be,
this.
dependent on potentially tweaking some hours or
if we wanted to have public usage later into the evening, yes.
or perhaps having a custodian start later in the day and finishing later in the day or something of that
Right.
nature.
You'll notice that there's a whole week of 7-hour days. That's similar to a summer schedule because that's spring break, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m.
That would work.
So that's going to be similar to what it would probably be like during the summertime, 7 to 2. Or the custodians are actually there from 6 to
2:30.
2:30. And we thought, let's give them an hour to get going before they open up, and then make sure that it closes before they're completely gone and have to secure the campus again.
But it's something we could look at if we needed to shift someone,
I also want to,
have it open till, because people work all day, they're not probably gonna
Yeah.
use it till 2 o'clock. So if we wanted to open in the evening, maybe we could work out something maybe.
And then, yeah, establishing a website with updated
If this goes
times.
well, and then we get,
It's pretty easy to make a Google sheet with these days and times, And then to just, actually, there's a way to embed the sheet on the website so that it's a live sheet, and if it gets changed, it's updated right this second. So it's a live, interactive kind of thing.
I want to point out kind of an important part of this that in the public discussion about the track and the school not allowing use of the track, or the district not allowing use of the track, we're looking at a proposed schedule over a course of approximately 8 weeks. You've listed about 23 days of which there might be even minimal availability. I would like for you to explain why there is no more availability on those other days. What exactly is going on?
Well, we have track right now.
Thank you. It is
The
being
track
used
it's track
by our
season.
students.
Yes.
For
From after school until 6:30 every day.
every day, and sometimes later because you've got
Right,
other
and they'll
things going
notice
on.
that it's not, so we did Mondays and, I can't remember what it is, Mondays and Fridays maybe?
And for example, today,
Because
Let's have girls
Wednes-
soccer too.
that's what I was saying,
Yeah, 'cause
today
we
you
have
would be able to use the
soccer
track
and
all
we
because-
have soccer games and we have track meets, and we are already, one of the reasons why Wednesdays are league track meets, and we've already had, Lavinia said to me, what's going to happen is in the TVL league, many of the schools don't have all-weather tracks, and it's rainy right now, and so their tracks are pools, they're muddy messes.
they call you wanting to move. the
Escalon
meet.
has already called us and said, can we please just have our meet on your track? And, we're taking advantage of that by nobody in the league charges for people to come watch track meets, and we're going to.
We charge for football, we should
Yes.
charge for the other sports. I just wanted to point that out, that major impetus behind this was never about restricting the public's access as much as it was providing the school the resources it needs for what it was intended for. And again, as much as a 7 hours looks great of track availability, 7 hours on a Tuesday afternoon between 7 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, I don't know how much usage that's going to get. But then the
don't know.
alternative is, do we hire staff to work until 8 o'clock at night? Is that really the best utilization of resources for the school district to provide track access?
Right.
And I would love to hear from committee members on that issue to say, as we're getting closer to that, is that something we want to, as Mr. Pombo brought up, is that something we want to consider?
Sure. I think it looks great. I have a couple of questions actually. First of all, I want to say that I don't think the impetus was always necessarily that we didn't want to allow public use of track just so that the high school students all had access to the track. I think there was always an underlying issue of whether or not the track could be used properly and how to police that. I think that was always a very important issue. I feel that a pilot program such as this will hopefully provide us with some data as well as ideally show us that the public can be trusted. Ultimately, after this 8 weeks, if the public can't be trusted, then the public simply can't be trusted. And then I'll figure out how to get a key or something, I guess.
I don't remember the
I don't even have a
cost
key to
install,
this building.
But there was a cost, and I don't remember if it was
So
30,000 or 13,000?
I did have one more question though. You have Mondays and Fridays from 6:45 p.m. until sunset starting next week. My daughter's in Mustang track, and they practice Mondays and Fridays from 6:30 to 7:30 on the high school track.
Okay,
Is that right, Lori? That's right?
they're on the calendar.
Well, I'm just saying because that would obviously preclude all the Mondays and Fridays until they're in a track.
Did you get this information from Lavinia's calendar? Or from, or a
We were
combo?
looking at both. I thought we looked at it pretty closely.
It says youth track on the
Okay.
permit.
On civic permits?
So we're gonna
I can give you the
Look at that
dates.
then.
That's good,
Yeah,
but again,
revise
that's-
it.
It's just it's a proposal.
The only other question I had was, I know during the last meeting we mentioned mornings potentially. What happened to mornings? Was mornings not a good option? Because I feel like most runners would probably
I agree.
rather do it in the morning than
I
the
actually
afternoon.
agree.
If they could get an
So-
hour in the evening or an hour in the morning, a lot would choose the
Yeah.
morning. That's all.
The issue is that our morning custodians their first responsibility in the morning is to do a health and safety check of the entire campus. And for them they don't have time by the time that they start to do we have basically one custodian coming in and unlocking the entire campus. And they literally, it's a safety thing. They have to walk through every building, go around every facility that kids are going to be in, and there's not time for them to go around and be opening things up and keeping track of what's going on. And then the day and their responsibilities to have to then, in the middle of school starting, which, by the time it's 7:30 hits,
Well, what time does the first custodian even get there?
He starts at 6.
And what time is the track gate open during regular school usage for the students? When is the first PE or whatever that takes place out there?
PE starts at 8.
So, I mean, I understand what you're saying as far as having to walk around and go through all the facilities. If the gate was already going to be open at 8, then I would assume he wouldn't need to reclose the gate if he did open it at whatever 6 when he gets here. I mean, the truth is that it's going to
Well,
take
let's-
3 minutes to walk
So
over to the gate.
7:30 is when the gates of school open for students to be there. So
So he would go
we're
over and lock it?
supervising campus and making sure that it's just our students and staff on campus from 7:30 on. So it would be from 6 to 7:30. And you have to remember, 6 o'clock is when he gets there. He's opening the drive-through gates. He's, opening other things on campus, and to take time to go open the track, and then to close it again at around 7:30, because they're not just custodians, they're custodian and security people. To split their attention to a public usage of the track. And that was the idea, is that I don't know that that's the best use of our time.
Sure.
At that time of day. Because if there's something that's going to happen on a school campus, it's right at the beginning of the day or right at the end of the day.
And you feel that relocking the gates at 7:30 would be a priority? That's something you'd want to do as far as locking it at 7:30 so that it could then be relocked at 8? That's a thing you would want to do? I mean, if in
Say
theory
that
he
again.
opened it at 6, why would he lock it at 7:30? I understand that that's when the campus
To
opens.
get the public off. So the stadium gates are locked all day long.
Oh, so that was what I asked in the first place, was when
Oh,
they
okay.
opened.
No. So PE starts at 8.
Right, I assume they don't use the stadium though.
No, they use it sometimes, but the PE teachers open it, not the custodians.
It doesn't just stay open.
No, because our campus is a closed campus and it's closed within the gates of the buildings. The stadium is actually outside of the locked campus. Does that make sense?
Okay, okay, so yeah, my entire line of
Because the
questioning
parking
is
lots,
wrong. 'Cause
the
I got
parking
wrong
lots are
experience.
open all day long. Yeah.
Okay,
So
we're
it's
good,
not
we're good.
it's not within the gates of the campus. In order for PE classes to go to the stadium, the teacher takes the kids out of the locked campus and walks them over and unlocks the
I think what he was
stadium.
just trying to say was the custodian would have to go under what we thought was going on. The custodian would have to go to unlock it before 8 o'clock anyway. What does it matter if he unlocks it at 6 or he unlocks it at 8? But you're saying
have
that's
to
not
unlock
what's
it.
taking
Well,
place.
that was
And
my first question.
And that's what I was like in your line of thinking going, that didn't make a lot of sense. If he's going to do it, just rearrange the schedule and
No.
do it first. But again, like you say, if it's not them unlocking it until the end of the day, for the very first time in the day,
Right.
that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Great. I have one related track question, or a couple, actually. The other day I was at track practice, and there was mentioned to me a couple of the things that have happened with the Mustangs involving the track. My understanding is the Pee Wee teams, when they play there, there's some sort of a tarp set down over the track for the teams to walk onto the field over the track.
The football teams?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you walk there, at any time, say for any practice, the kids just walk right across the whole time, every day. When they're walking to it, they're walking directly across the track. What's the point of this tarp during the 5 days in which the Mustangs rent it versus the 100 days when the soccer team uses it?
I don't know. I know we have a tarp and they should be using it during the season. So
I don't
I'll
think
check
they're using
into
it during
that.
practices or during the season, so if you could check that. It's just-
Typically, from what I have experienced is during football season anyway, I'm out there more often during football, is that the coaches, they take, when they come on the field during football season, they do come on that tarp at the end of the field. They put that down for every game. And during practices,
Practice is probably
the coaches tell them to take their cleats off to walk across.
But that's the high school. That's not the Pee Wee League, which is
Right.
what.
No, well, I'm saying I think the high school isn't doing that. At least maybe not with the soccer teams going out there walking across. I'm just saying if
They
no
don't
one's
have
supposed
to talk to the soccer.
yeah, if you
coach.
could just check. I don't know. It's ultimately if we're going to use a tarp, we should use the tarp for everyone if our concern is wear and tear or issues with the track.
The
If
cleats,
it's not an issue, then whatever.
I've been at events and I've caught the opposing coaches allowing their kids to run up and down on the track surface during football and soccer. And I will walk up and let the coach know, say, please don't do that. Get them on the green. get them on the green. And most coaches will respect it and honor it. They just, kind of do it, so.
And one other question. Also in the letters, something about Gatorade, and you're not supposed to have Gatorade on the field. Do you guys do any sort of spot checks for that during the season as well to make sure that there's no
Yes.
Gatorade bottles? My understanding is there most assuredly are in fact Gatorade bottles on the field. So
That's something that we're constantly chasing, yes.
okay,
Absolutely, all the time.
okay, awesome. Yeah, I was just want to make sure that I know that the design is for the kids, but ultimately they're going to use it way more often. So we want to make sure they're following the rules that help with the maintenance. Outside of that, though, I think that your public use plan seems great, and I'm hoping that we can work out at least something to try.
Anybody else have questions? No? Okay, thank you, Mr. Faubert. Enjoy your meeting.
Thank you, Ben.
So then,
Kitchen.
and then we'll go ahead and skip the kitchen then. No, I said skip two.
I didn't hear
I skipped
two.
that because I want to use the kitchen.
I was going to say before you
go
go,
over
I
there
kind
and
of need a
cook with
cake,
you,
but
buddy.
whatever.
Always in the hot seat. He's tall.
You can actually with the handle right there on your left hand, there's a handle, and if you pull that little trigger up,
All right.
Yeah,
Need
but
my
it's hiding
desk
me.
to
I
do
like
that.
All right. Hi.
hello.
Thank you for coming. I think what we had originally started a conversation, and we were talking about the high school kitchen and talking about the concerns, waiting until the warranty was over.
Correct.
For those. But I know when, we processed the minutes, there was a question by Board Member Lampel, who had read some information about what was going on in the kitchens at the elementary sites. And originally, we were not charging for a food service person unless they were using the equipment.
Correct.
But the concern, and you kind of brought forward this concern, is even if they're not using the equipment, things are still going missing.
Correct.
So that's where it brings us back to today's conversation is if someone wants to use the kitchen, they need to pay for a person so we can ensure our things do not disappear, because it almost seems difficult that we're going to have to start inventorying every piece of item that we have in the kitchen. So I kind of wanted to get your feeling on that.
So I went and I talked to some other directors in other districts and asked them, one, do you rent your kitchens? And two, if you do, what are the parameters and what are your rules that are set in place? 80% of them said yes, they rented their kitchens, 20%, and there's a group of us, so I'm talking about 12 to 15 districts. Tracy Unified does not rent their kitchens. They lock them down. You can't have them. I don't care if you're part of the school or whatever it is, they lock theirs down. There are other ones that do the same thing. If you are in the kitchen, and this is what I found with most of them, irregardless of whether you're using a warmer or you're just serving through it or anything, you have to pay for personnel to be in that kitchen. I am not opposed to that. I think the part where we're going to run into some kickback is when a booster club wants to come and have a dinner to celebrate the students, because it's for the students. We're going to get kickback on them having to pay for that. Or if the drama teacher and music teacher wants to come in and have a catering company come in and do that, and they want to use the facilities for that too, that then we're charging your tier ones for that service. So it's just something to put out there, ultimately up to you guys. But yes, I've been experiencing some issues.
Has it changed, altered, increased, reduced since? Is it kind of the same?
Since when?
Well, because we talked about this a year ago, maybe?
Year ago, just
or
over a
so.
year.
And that was the concern, was that stuff would go missing. So we talked about, not letting them use certain storage areas and stuff like that. What are you talking about? Are you talking about commodities and
So-
food? Are you talking about utensils? Are you talking about pots and pans? What's going missing?
What I'm seeing missing, and it's mostly utensils do go missing. Some kitchens have drawers where things can be locked. Most of them don't. So they're out in the open for anybody. And that includes staff. I've had to go into a staff lounge and dig through the drawers and go, that's mine, that's mine.
And because that was my next point is
Who is taking it?
are we assuming that it's
No, so in some situations, yes. The first place I go if I have missing utensils is to the staff lounge. And sometimes I won't even ask, I'll just go rummage. The second issue I'm seeing is that, and I'm going to use this as an example like I did last time. Someone came in, they decided they were going to use our warmers to serve the pizza for science night, and they didn't clean up. You could tell they had been there. We're having some mice issues. This is a health and safety thing. Then my staff has to come in and clean up after them and sanitize and make sure that everything
We
is
are
clean.
charging if we do that, correct?
But I don't know.
I know, I want to make sure first and foremost.
Correct.
That's
But
not that makes it any better,
I don't know what group in this particular instance came in to use it. Nobody had requested it. That's my point. That's where I'm starting to get concerned, and that might be a different issue, I don't know.
It is for me.
Okay.
I would just say as a board member, it's a issue that's beyond the committee and is definitely something that should be brought to
And,
different levels of attention.
and
Because
frankly,
that's why this group exists, was
I
to
was going to say,
avoid
frankly,
that.
that's why all this happened in the first place, was because each site was being run independently, and they were allowing people to come in and do things outside of district rules and regulations.
Okay,
'Cause they have the keys.
Yes, and so I would like that
okay.
brought to someone's attention. And that's, my concern with all of this is, my question actually is this. For the majority, spaghetti night, for example, notwithstanding, your pizza parties, your movie nights, your popcorns, they don't need the kitchen. Just put a table in front of the kitchen
I agree.
window.
I agree
And serve
100%.
on it, right? I mean, am I wrong? Is that an unreasonable? I'm not a foundation president or former foundation president, therefore couldn't speak to the complications and difficulty of that, but for the majority of things, it doesn't seem like the kitchen is really necessary.
And I would agree with you, and I've seen
I agree as well.
tables that have been set out in front so that they're not in the kitchen. We had to do it at Kimball. The Booster Club I was a part of, when we had our cast party at the end of a show, it was our responsibility to bring something to keep our food warm.
Yes.
There is a gate and it's locked and there's not even a question about it. I don't know that I necessarily want to go that far. Like you said, we're special here. So I'm willing to continue to do this, but I do think that our rules might need to be a little more strict, which is if you're in the kitchen in any way, shape, or form, whether you have a catered event or not, or you're using the equipment or not, if you are in that kitchen, even if it's just a serve through a window, you have to pay for a staff member.
What's the cost?
$20 an hour.
So can you define staff member and an actual kitchen staff member, or?
Actual kitchen staff member, because they need to be Serve Safe certified, and I need to know that they understand how to use the equipment and where everything is kept.
What do we charge for custodian?
So a third-party Serve Safe certified person would not apply?
Yeah, but I just want to.
I'm going to say no.
That the cost that we're talking about for the Serve Safe kitchen staff is significantly less per hour than the custodian staff.
No, it sounds like $7 an hour. It's not significant.
Ours is
30%
ours
is
is 20,
significant
and Alvina based on our average cost plus.
Yes, and I need to double check that we may need to, with the salary settlement, we may need to revisit those hourly fees. I know we changed the custodian, but I don't recall if we changed the food service. We need to probably do
Yeah.
that.
Probably look at it, but I think we're still.
And a
pretty close.
2 hour minimum?
It
How
is
many
a
of these
2 hour
events
minimum.
go well past that?
We haven't had a lot.
They're good at 3 or 4 hours, aren't they?
Yeah, I would say the typical event's probably, in the
Well, for
kitchen,
my
you'd probably need
kitchen.
more. So you could probably shrink it a little bit though, but.
It depends, but they need to understand when they rent it, and I know Lori's very good at explaining this. It's from the minute you need the kitchen to the minute it's clean and you walk out.
Right.
It's not during your service time.
No, absolutely,
It's
because you got to
for the-
clean it.
A
you
lot
gotta
of
prep
people don't
before.
understand that.
It's different than, it's actually not different than you rent the room.
not
It's
that
got to be
different than renting the
clean
room.
when you leave, and it's got to be
Yes.
organized. so.
Yes. The other question that I do receive quite a bit of is, will your staff actually be working?
Oh, right.
So I asked that question to the other directors, and they said that in their contract, it's that they are there to ensure that everything is used properly, but it wasn't their job to do it. However, most of them ended up doing it. I don't necessarily agree with that because, I don't know, if I was hired to be there for
You
something.
need to be there.
Why not help? So I think that my answer is, no, you're hiring for that staff member to be there. If you would like to utilize them, which I think is an absolutely great idea if they're going to be using equipment, let me help you, let me show you, let me give you some suggestions if you've not done this before. I do think they should work it.
We need to check our labor contract to find out that that's acceptable.
Okay,
Because while we can offer to pay them, we may not actually be allowed
and that's a
to
good
make them
question.
work. We need to check on a labor contract to find out if we go this route, whether we're gonna offer, if we can offer to allow them to, because again, other districts may not do it for that reason. It may be
That could be the
a labor
reason.
contract issue more than anything else.
And I did
So-
not get the reasonings from Tracy Unified as to why they did not participate in the rental.
but I would like-
Valerie and I talk, so,
If we could check with either the superintendent or the assistant super, just check with legal, just to find out if we were to offer that kind of service, is that acceptable under the contract?
It's almost like they'd be catering. I mean, if
Yeah.
they were using our people would be cooking for them and preparing it for their group.
I don't know if they're preparing it for them or assisting them in the preparation.
That's what I would see it as, is with them.
So Bernie, basically, even if we used a caterer, but we had the certificated staff there, they.
I think you need to hire our staff.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And
Yes.
Or at least one member of your staff.
Yes.
And they wouldn't just be there to just be a placeholder. If we said, hey, could you help show us how to use
We gotta find out,
Well, that's what that's what the question
I have
is
to find out if
whether or
legally
not they
we're allowed
should
to
work
let
or
them
they're
do
allowed to work.
or even ask them to do it. I mean, California's labor laws are really, really tricky right now with
So
regards
it
to
could
forced
be
work.
you're here and it's your choice to participate in working or
Correct.
not. We're not sure,
Correct.
so.
That's what I'd like to find out, if we can tell them, because you're being paid, you can go ahead and work, or if it's, but I would also, the question has to be phrased, if they're there, are they allowed to? Because if they're not allowed to, we need to tell them that.
Correct.
And again, this is
then they can't even-
California's crazy labor laws.
Then they can't even offer to help.
They
at that
can't
point.
even offer to help, and I would want to make sure they know that.
And they need to understand that, and that would be, yes.
Exactly. So-
I'm not sure who can answer this, so I'll just ask it, and whoever can answer it can answer it. If someone rents a kitchen,
Yes.
hires a food staff member, is it the same price whether they're just serving through the window or if they're using an oven and mixer and?
Yes.
Okay, that was my question.
Because we don't actually charge for
The
the
thing that
equipment.
changes is that the MPR includes the kitchen, which the price is higher, and then you pay for the food service worker in addition.
I think we used to allow you to rent the kitchen and not have a food service worker if you weren't using any actual items.
used to
Serving
do.
through the window, for example, is an
Exactly
example
it.
where that would be valid. If we're always including a food service worker, then they would effectively always be at the higher level of kitchen use, which includes burners and warmers and the whatnot, right? I'm assuming the power costs are negligible?
I think that's what she just said, is that part of the rental of the NPR includes power and
for that,
it's all
okay.
incorporated. We don't have a separate, yeah, and we don't, our power isn't tracked separately.
Great, thank you.
Anything else? I can go home now.
Thank you.
So yeah, once we get that information,
Thank you.
let's put that on the next agenda and make sure we have that information, and then we can try to bring a proposal forward.
Okay, since we're talking about kitchens now, at the last meeting, we talked about the cost to rent the kitchens, as far as the nicer kitchen over there in the high school. And I called some spots in Tracy to get prices on that, just so we had some information. Do you want me to email these to you, or should I just tell them out now? I don't know, it's up to you.
You can email them to me and then maybe we can discuss them when we bring this back.
Great. Oh, I can give them to you now if you want, it's totally fine. Okay, oh yeah, I could, that's a good call.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll jump up to the regular part of the agenda, and facilities use minutes there, any changes or corrections to any of that stuff, as I wasn't here? We all good, Mr. Palmer? Okay, super. The usage report is in our packet. Have we had much luck with breaking those down yet to try to get the conversations with them to change our tiers around and look at who's getting
Yeah,
what?
they haven't given us any further updates since we met with them the last time.
Do we need to call somebody?
The gentleman was talking about being able to merge some of those addresses. But that was the last piece that we had
That's
received
been
from
when?
him.
A month? 3 weeks? Email me his phone number. I'll call him. Email me his phone number. I'm not a patient person. There's no reason he can't at least let you know I'm working on it, what's going on. The merger thing could have happened right then and there, so. Denied applications for lack of district coverage. They're not here tonight, but the Royal Kings, just the one.
I notified them through email.
Any
We just
feedback?
we don't have, no, they understand if we don't have coverage, then they'll look for another site, which they did. And they put in applications at 3 other sites and one of them got denied again, but we just don't have the coverage.
And they're specifically looking at what, Bethany?
It was that one, it was at Cuesta. The one that they had
It's
asked
Cuesta.
for was Lammersville, and that we've had such a shortage in custodians that we've had to pull that custodian from that site to filter into the house, the Mountain House internal piece here for the other schools. And then we also, if there's ever a scheduling conflict, we've been using Lammersville as the overflow because we're still solidly booked at all the K-8s in town
There's
and the
some,
high school.
yes, we have there's a new law that passed, where substitutes now are entitled to sick leave. So now we have
3 days per year.
subs that are calling in sick.
Yep.
So,
Seems really strange. We had a job fair a few weeks ago. Did we hire any custodians? Because I know we have this shortage going on. Did we start the process to get some more? So ideally, these shortages will hopefully lessen.
Yeah, we're processing them now.
Oh, awesome.
So
I'm excited.
I think we're
I
going to
found
have quite a
payroll
few
person.
potential hires on the next packet, right? My understanding is we're going to have quite a few potential hires on the next
Yes.
packet.
there were like 50, 55, and I screened out about a dozen for various reasons. So we got 40 something to go through right now.
Nice.
I look forward to Sharon reading out 59 names.
That will take a while. Okay. Unapproved uses notifications?
Didn't have any.
None. Change the tier status, none. Civic permit software update, we
I
just
talked
talked
about
about that. So I will be following up with them then because, like I say, 3 weeks is to me unreasonable at least due to the data merge,
had
especially because we've
several
notified
stuff.
everybody that it's going to happen.
But did he
So-
say he needed something, though?
The only thing that he needed from us was anybody who logs on with a SBC Global email account, when we do the automatic kickback from our address to them, giving the notification, because of the capitals, the way that it comes back from the automated needs to just be not there. It all needs to be lowercase. That was the only thing that I got.
Okay.
Sounds like the only thing you might need is a kick in the rear to get things moving.
That's why someone's going to make a phone call. And
That's technical.
reimbursements to organizations, none. Public comments, none. Finance report, staff hours report, we looked at.
Yeah, page 6 is the finance report. But I know, poor Lori, we, as you know, we're short a payroll person, and we're also short our Aries CalPads person, so we've been trying to accommodate Lori's workload to other business office staff. And I know Carol Saw's been helping a lot with the payroll. So the staff report, she wasn't able to prepare that, but it seems like it's less than 3 hours right now.
Yeah, it's not so much outside organizations, it's now more internal, for at least the high school, pulling things in and out, moving them around, because they're out of space too for themselves. And now they're getting bumped for college prep night, and they're pushing people out of NPR, and then the gyms are full, so the band gets pushed out, and then the volleyball guys get pushed out. We're out of space.
On the financial here, I see a lot more deposits than were reflected the last time. Have those come in, or they were just plugged in?
I'm thinking she didn't have some of those in there.
She might have split them out. She didn't, because we do keep track of them separately. So I think she finally pulled them out to say, hey, this is what we have currently. And then at the end of the year, they'll be refunded back. And then they start all over again for next year. And we do have a couple new ones who have come in, but only a couple.
My last recollection was that I was supposed to follow up with the superintendent regarding the committee discussing, or us discussing a proposal to bring someone in on a part-time basis just to do this, and I believe that's fallen off my
Well,
radar,
there's
so
a
I
lot
will
going
follow up.
on. And I think the best way to address it is in our handbook, providing the times that this person is available.
Yeah.
So Lori's not getting
Calls all day long.
So I
calls
shouldn't
or,
have called her today at 10 a.m. That's the goal.
That might be the
Not do
time.
that.
I don't know what the time is, but I do still think that we
Well,
need to.
because what
look at that,
happens,
so.
the site will call me, the site puts it in, the site will email me, the organization will call me, then the organization will email me.
I skipped the email.
But that's the nature of it. They just need an answer. You know, I put it in, how long is this going to take? And usually it's a quick, but
I
they do
think
start
if-
to stack up.
but if we have someone every day working from this hour to this hour, they should be able to get a response,
Right,
right?
right.
It's just we're being pulled in too many different directions right
Well,
now.
and again, it may not be the most ideal thing, but if they know between 10 and 2, that's when you get your answers.
That's when
You're going to get your
answers.
answers, you know, so.
Okay.
Okay, we already discussed the track and the
Sorry,
kitchen facility.
wait, real quick, I'm sorry. Jimmy, you did this at previous districts. I want to say someone mentioned that you had experience with potentially alternative software for this. for the tracking and scheduling. I want to say someone mentioned that to me, but I could be completely wrong. But did you
use
have some
this
experience
software?
with alternative software, or is this the only one you've used previously?
No, we used Civic Permits in my last district, but we ran it differently than this is laid out. The sites were the first point of contact, whereas this is the district. So,
Do you feel that
CC. I
one
was gonna have him
necessarily is
discuss
better
his
than the other?
IMC.
Oh, that's on here already?
It's on here, facility use process. I wanted him to
That's
talk
right.
about.
My
We're talking
bad.
about that right now. No, that's.
You're on the right timing.
No, this
You're
is
on the right
the,
timing.
this is the topic we're on right now, so we'll talk about the facilities
No, it
use
was perfect
process.
timing.
Mr. Trog, if you have a question.
Good segue.
We were just going to announce it.
Okay, yeah, that's my question then. Do you think that it would work better if the sites were the primaries?
yeah, I do, but I'm not gonna upset the apple cart on my second or third week here, but I mean, I
I
understand.
will, it's fine.
I understand why you do it, and I hear your concerns about everybody doing their own thing and people, using facility without permits, and high school coaches are guilty of that. They bring their club team in to use the gym or whatever, all those kind of things, but.
At least had our high school coaches ask us to do that. So we are pretty good there, but it's.
So, every district I've been in, the site is the first point of contact. The site enters their own personal use facility stuff, and then if I'm Jimmy Little League guy, come to the school, I want to use a field, I talk to every site has a coordinator or someone in charge of it, a point person, and I would talk to that person. If the field's not available, that's it. It doesn't go any further. I go try a different school.
That might save the
So-
district a lot of time.
Hey,
And it'll also put more responsibility on the sites that have to get their schedules on the calendar to begin with. And I think now that we have the software, we didn't have that before, so that's why they were able to get through.
the intent was to have centralized information, not necessarily
So
centralized
there's
process.
always layers of approval process, obviously the site, and then the principal will sign off, or sometimes at the high school, the athletic director would sign off, then it went to the principal, then it went to my office person who checked insurance and all those kind of things, and then by the time it got to me, I just glanced over, it, everything was cool, and I just approved it, and that was it.
Right now I'm in that process.
I think a
it's
big
really
problem
nice.
previously was that a lot of times it didn't get past the principal.
Yeah, that's a problem.
A group was told, yes, you can use it, and it never got
So
farther.
my office person would kind of bird dog people who maybe it's set at the sites, they're for whatever reason, sit in their principal's inbox for whatever reason, or someone on the site. That's when you get on the phone and call, hey, this has been there for a week or so, what's going on? You gotta move it along in the process, but someone's gotta be paying attention to that. Otherwise,
Well,
it
we
gets
do
lost
do
in the
that
shuffle
now.
sometimes.
We do that now where it's just the orders backwards because we started with the district first. But we do, Rita sends out, she goes in there and she'll check it in the morning and she'll send an email to the principal saying, hey, you've got this many that you need to go in there and approve. So we do have someone that's mindful of that.
I just want to say that first of all, the point of this committee is to upset the apple cart. Don't worry about sharing your opinion. It's
Okay,
not a
well,
problem.
I'm not,
It's not a problem.
I'm the new guy, so.
I would
Much more
say,
experience.
I would say, I like the idea for a couple of reasons. One, we've been having issues with sites not updating their calendars. The problem that I foresee is that when the entities get frustrated, that frustration will be borne out to the district. Now, as a district person, I'm all right with that. I don't really, that's part of the role of a board member is if something happens at a site, we're part of that too and part of the responsibility chain to make sure things get corrected. But I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea to try and say, manage your own stuff, school sites. And if you're not updating your calendar and school foundations are getting upset because they can't get sites,
Then that's
that
taking us out of at least
that
initial-
takes, that has to, I think, puts more responsibility on the sites to be more up to date about those things.
And we tried it for a year and a half and we've continued to struggle.
So, I
with
mean,
this event's not there.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, you had a question?
I was just gonna say, given the amount of time that Lori spends doing it, how much time would we expect the site admins to do it? I know that Wigland, for example, has recently gotten a new site admin. I'm assuming that's the person we would think of as the point person, would be the office admin for this, right? How much, Lori's shaking her head over there. I don't think she likes the idea.
I think they're already.
I like the idea.
But I mean, I don't
just
think
don't
you
know
like-
how they're,
Yeah.
I don't know what impact
That's what I
it's gonna give to them when their plates are already
just
overflowing.
change
as well.
That's my question.
Nobody's plate is empty.
It's not really.
Let's be honest. Nobody's plate is empty.
But it's not really changing the order either.
No, well,
Because
no.
I don't even contact
The only
site.
way that it changes the order is they'll have an immediate response to them, and the school will have more flexibility than, oh, here's Lori, the middleman, having to come through me, and then 6 or 7 emails later, we finally get it fixed. When they can look at it, go, okay, let me work on this a couple days, let's see what we have. Obviously, they'd still have to follow the handbook for tier.
Right now, you're having to go and take
Back
that
and forth
step
and back
for
and forth
them,
and back
as
and
opposed
forth.
to the
So
school site
I
being
talk to the
responsible for
school,
that
then I
work.
talk to the
Right,
organization,
as
then I go
opposed
back
to-
to the school, and then I go back to the
Yeah, she's the
organization.
middle person.
Maureen's favorite thing, direct communication, resolving and addressing issues.
Could we pilot one site or 2 sites and keep it at the district for the other sites just to see how it works out? Or would we kind of need to
I don't know if
just
it works that way.
jump right in?
Wasn't the idea behind this software was to take out all the middlemen and people just be able to go there and say, I want that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not available, I can't get it. Then they don't have to talk to anybody. They go to another site or another day or another time. And for some reason, that doesn't seem to be
Right.
working.
The reason that doesn't work is because when you go in to register for a time or a location, you either get a yes or you get a no. What you don't get are alternative options. When Lori looks, Lori says, no, I'm sorry, Corey, you cannot have 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on the 22nd. But like the 29th is open if you want the 29th, right?
And-
The
and
software
we-
doesn't do that.
Yes, we asked the software company, and it will not give me, where I can just run a report to see all available time left, so I know I can say,
But we did find, when you were here at the last meeting, we signed in as Corey, and I showed him how to use the calendar. And he was able to see,
Right.
choosing that school, what was available. Yeah, you have to kind of hover over it.
Oh, it's definitely better with using that view for sure. But David was just asking why it kind of doesn't do exactly what we hoped it would do. And the reason is because you don't get pushed with alternatives. You have to sort of figure out the alternatives on your own. And admittedly, I didn't know about the calendar view, which makes finding an alternative a little easier.
Maybe we need to record a new webisode.
I mean,
on how
that
to
might
use the
actually help, I
software.
think.
Or either a webisode or a training. If you want to use our facilities, you come here and someone will go over it.
We
up on
could at the beginning of
screen
the school year,
and-
when we're looking to get those dates announced, say, okay, if you want to come and learn how to use the facilities permit, a couple weeks before school starts, this is our training day for organizations and foundations, because
Something
you're
in
rolling
July,
over
yeah,
presidents and vice presidents, and,
Yeah, I like
and it
that
gives
idea.
them that opportunity. And then, as we're making changes to things, it's a reminder, hey, we have to get that information out to the people who are regularly using it as well. So it might be something to consider to do, basically, I would say 2 weeks before the deadline that we're going to be doing for the beginning of the school year and
Well,
that kind of
now
stuff.
I'm wondering if that's going to affect that, because Jimmy is not used to having, he's used to a first come, first serve.
I know.
And we
That's-
do not have that
Well,
here.
we don't give them we give them the first, through Christmas, the first 6 months of school, we kind of open up in blocks. Like, I can't book something now for a year from now, May, something
Right,
like
we
that.
block it off too.
To give the school opportunity to get their stuff in, because you don't know your sports schedule, your baseball games, so
Tier two,
we open up a little bit of time.
tier two can.
nope,
not-
the window opens September 1st through September 10th for them to enter for the entire year.
Yep.
Right. that
And
is-
then
but
the
you
problem
work
that
with-
ours runs into is that we cannot separate by tier. So when they all come in, I still have to filter them manually for tier 1, 2, 2A, 2B, and 3.
But that's because
I'm
we
saying is-
prioritize for those.
Correct.
And that's what he's talking about, is they didn't prioritize for that. It was basically, you could be a tier 3, and if you wanted it and it's available, you get it if you're the first one.
Could we have different windows? If you're tier 1, you can choose from
Yeah.
this date to
Yes,
this
that's
date.
what I was
If you're
referring
tier
to.
2, you can,
Alvina could, yes, she was able, we tested
Normally,
it.
we open up to the school first and give them some time to put in their schedule before we open up to the public. And you could even stagger it along the different levels,
That's what I
sure.
was referring to.
Oh, okay,
That'll allow us
yes,
to
we
do
didn't
that.
do that this year, but yes,
Yes.
All right, so then
which would be better.
my only concern with piloting it versus just a wholesale rollout of it is, I worry that the sites that are getting piloted, once things start to get bumpy, there's not going to be an allowance for us to fix it, and they're just going to go right to Lori. If we just shove everything off to the school sites and say, it's your responsibility because they're your facilities, fix it, and just make sure you're looping the district staff in as we need, that at least would avoid that, because I'm going to be honest with you, I think that's what's going to happen.
So you're trying to take the escalation out coming to me.
Yeah.
Well, I would recommend that we bring people in maybe over the summer and roll it out for next year.
I
And
think that's a
so-
good idea. I mean,
But
like
we
I
could
said,
identify maybe the site coordinator of every site and get them trained, and we brought in all the custodians and make sure they had access and they could have their own accounts, so they could get
But
the
I
calendar
think-
stuff they needed.
I think because of what we're doing and what we're seeing, this might be something we need to now get feedback from the district superintendent and from the school site principals to talk about what this might mean for them and understanding it. And, you know, to me, it makes sense. To me, I think it's the best alternative. And like I say, while a pilot program might have some benefits, I do think that it just won't provide the allowances. There've got to be rough patches that need to be fixed to figure out how to do it right. And if we don't get people willing to use the school site to fix it and keep jumping to the district office, then it doesn't really provide for that opportunity. So, I don't know.
Because I know the idea also came up too, to try to have them give us their schedules for that first month.
Yeah.
Because that came up as well.
Yeah,
So-
and like I say, and this gets past all of that. We tell the principals, you need to tell us when your dates are. We're going to set it up for everybody. Your dates are in. If they're not, then it's on you if you didn't put your stuff in.
Right.
And then your staff gets to fix your problem as opposed to the district staff. And that's why I really like this is the accountability and responsibility to take care of the sites belongs at the school site. And we need to have oversight as necessary. But at this point, it's beyond oversight and we're doing it all at the district office. And I don't know that that's necessarily the best thing.
In that scenario, the school would still be able to override though with minimal amounts of notice, I'm guessing, right? So, like your implication just now was that if you didn't put in your dates, then other people could book your dates, right? But right now, even if you didn't put in your dates and other people booked those dates, then the school could still just take those dates with like
That's not
literally
supposed to
zero
be
notice.
happening. I know it is happening.
Yeah.
It's not super common for me at least,
Well,
but
with
it's definitely
with a
thing.
fair amount of warning, so we had
If
one come
possible.
up with, we can't get around it. I mean, it's a month and a half warning.
No, I'm not worried
I
about
know-
it.
But that's,
Cancel
no, no,
too
no.
much.
wait, he's
But
not-
like the day of.
Yeah, no, we've had situations I'm
Yeah.
aware of
Yes,
where it's
it
like
does
it's
happen.
Monday
It's
and
not-
Wednesday you're
it's
told
not
you don't get the
supposed to, but
facilities
it
anymore.
does happen.
That's not supposed to happen.
I know.
But again, if it is, it's something like we're putting on a school play. You were supposed to have the thing that night. We want to do the school play. But I also think the intent behind this too is let's foster communication with your groups using your facilities. You know what I mean? Let's not dictate rules and policy. Let's have foster communication with our public and our community with regards to some of these things, because you may have a great reason to want to do what you want to do, but they do too, and maybe it benefits the school enough that you do want to change what you're doing internally instead of externally. I want to try to foster that communication because it provides better response times to the public, it provides better feedback and better opportunities, and again, it gets it where it belongs, which is back there. So
Yeah, I'd say it also fits in with the way that the district seems to want to operate as far as parents going back to the site first as opposed to going to the district. So it definitely
Right.
fits in with that. It sort of streamlines that along to try to get
So
some parents.
we need to loop in, I'll talk to Kirk about that too.
I did like the idea though of training the MPOs and the
I
and the
absolutely agree.
organizations as well.
We should look at that. I don't know if it's something that we bring them in for, if they contract for that. If it's part of look at our services contract. I don't know if they provided the training or did you guys just do it yourselves?
We did it ourselves.
We had a couple people trained, and then we went and trained everybody else. So train the trainer type thing.
Right, okay, so you would send someone to,
And then we brought in all the clerical staff, all the custodial staff, set them in a room with Chromebooks and just everybody log on and did it all right there.
Yeah, you could
And
do a
went through
web
the whole
episode of it as
process.
well.
yeah, and that's true, you're
Record
right.
the record the web episode for
You could
anyone who comes
record it
in
while
later.
you're doing it too. to
And you
provide
could
that
also, if you want, you could just bring in all the user groups that are there every year, the football, the little league, whatever. You can even bring some reps in from them too and kind of maybe walk through the process that they don't know. Have a couple nights and do that in the evenings. That would be good community outreach for them.
Yeah, I think that's great, and it would allow us to reduce the amount of official logons. Like once you've trained in it, then we could give you could ask for your official logon, and then once you've gone through the training process, then we could say, okay, here WSF, this is your logon's now active,
Right.
which would prevent people from creating 100 of them or whatever, because we'd have to activate them, and they wouldn't be able to activate them. We could say, yeah, you know what you're doing, you can now book.
Right, it's just along with, you've given us the insurance, you've
extra
given us
hoop.
this, you've given us that,
but it's a
you've
good
gone
hoop.
through the training, you're now an active user, knock yourself out. That makes a lot of sense. I like that idea.
And I think we would have to also make sure that we have at least 2, if not more, people at each site who understand how this is going to work and what they need to do, and that they need to follow the steps to make sure that everything happens the way it's supposed to, so that Group A doesn't say, I told so-and-so that I wanted it, they said okay. Now I show up and somebody else is there.
Right, yeah.
And
Well,
that-
or someone's sick on a day or something like that. There should be at least 2 people at each site that have the capacity to do it. So people can take days off and not get calls on the weekend, things like that.
I think we do have 2 now. We have the office supervisor and the principal, because they have to approve the civic permits. So we have 2 now.
Anything else on this one?
I'm good.
Excellent. Okay, so then I will follow up with the superintendent with regards to whether or not we need to bring, put this on the next agenda. We're gonna need to make a formal proposal and recommendation to the board because it's gonna be changing the
We have
handbook.
time to do it this week?
It doesn't need to, when's our next meeting? When's our next meeting?
Next Wednesday, your next meeting is next
I don't know
Wednesday.
if, yeah, but.
No, no,
the-
not
but
board,
the
no,
stuff
I don't
has
want
to be
this,
done
I don't want
week.
this on the board agenda for next Wednesday because we haven't heard from the principals yet. We need to,
No.
I want this on our next agenda to make a
This,
proposal to go
meeting
forward.
agenda.
Yes, on
Okay.
this agenda for our next meeting to talk about, because again, I need to hear from Kirk on his concerns, invite the principals to come by if they want to comment on it as well and share their concerns. So, and also the foundations and whoever else might be using it to say, this is what we're looking at doing. Do you want to come and
That's a good idea.
ask about it? And to discuss both the school, the breakup of the centralized usage of the process, but then also the training and usage of the program by the outside entities, to make sure the folks know when you email them the agenda, to let them know that that'll be on the agenda to talk about that. Because some of them may even want it, may have a problem using it, and it's easier to call you than to try to figure it out,
Sometimes. Corey, she says Corey.
I needed a classroom today from 2:45 to 4:45 for callbacks for our Willy Wonka musical.
30 days notice, mister.
I mean, we
The
could have just
musical
canceled the
wasn't
musical.
announced 30 days ago. I'm gonna back Corey up on this one because the
And we were asking for a
musical
classroom.
wasn't
Those are
even
typically just
existing
open.
30 days ago.
Okay.
So,
A lot's
you know,
changed at that
Okay.
site in the last.
It's come
the last
together in a
month.
very short amount of time.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm
So-
kidding.
And did my daughter get a call back? Do you know?
I don't know. Vicky's in charge of that. I don't know.
Grace?
Honestly, I was a little bit surprised at all that we had to go all the way through the facilities. Typically, Ryan would just say yes to a classroom, but apparently not. It's very complicated.
The handbook says it has to go through, but this would have avoided that.
I got today and tomorrow, though, right?
Would have avoided that.
This would have avoided that, and you would have just been able to call Ryan and say, hey, Ryan, do you know, especially because it's for what you're doing, is this okay? And he would be able to say, well, sure it is. All right, so that'll be on our next agenda to talk about and we'll make a formal recommendation to the governing board on that.
After that, okay.
All right. Custodian working, no,
no.
summer
School
school
events,
events,
Summer.
school events for the summertime.
I think I know the answer to this.
Summertime.
Oh, is Cam Learning in here? Oh, yeah, it is. Oh,
That's not-
wait,
no,
wait,
that's later.
school event summer, talk to me.
Well, this was the one that you had mentioned to me, and I
Oh, we have
thought it was
multiple.
okay.
Yes,
School sites are okay to use the facilities.
during summer.
Yeah, that's what I
This,
thought. I
this,
just
this is what came up.
clarified.
Just on a rotating schedule to make sure
Yeah,
buildings are
remember-
available for
Yeah, I thought I
had the
refurbishing and
answer.
cleaning.
A few
and-
facility meetings ago, we had the coach from Mountain House High School who came over, who have to register through an AAU organization
Right.
so that their basketball team can practice outside of the season so they don't get sanctioned.
Right.
Now the wrestling coach would like to do that in the wrestling room for summer. So it's his team, but then a little more information came as I started digging. They want to open it up to sponsor wrestling for the community. They're not making any money on it, but they want to
But
give
they're
it all
charging a
age.
fee?
Yeah, but it's to pay for the people.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
But it's a
I-
fee.
we had this with Kuma Gang and with a couple other folks.
Yes.
When we start charging fees for admission, it becomes not so much a school-based event, especially because
Well,
it's not
When
a
what,
school wrestling team.
yes, how it was explained to me, they collect the fees to pay for the registration through the club that he has to register through so that the high school boys can also coach the younger kids.
Right.
So it was
and
kinda
I
like
get all of
working
that,
both
but-
ways.
But
see
we
here's a
have rules within our tiers. They'd
participation.
have to come and talk to us.
Okay,
to
I
try
can
and
bring him
discuss
in.
justification of changing their tier. Because that's one of the things we have on here. They'll have to come and make a formal presentation to this committee as to why their tier should be changed.
All right, I'll have them come.
So that would be a good idea.
Okay.
But no, the facilities are open. There's just like a rotating schedule.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but the issue with summer school is if all the custodians are off at, 3 o'clock or 3:30, then if they want to come in the evening and
No,
do
I-
basketball
Custodian
practice,
time,
they
you
have to pay for the
it.
custodial
Absolutely.
time,
Okay.
so.
Absolutely.
I'll have it
And
added
they
to
know that.
the agenda in April and have them come back so we can talk to you.
Well, and like I say, make sure they understand that. If they're talking, they want 6 to 8 on a Wednesday night, that they're paying the custodian time to come and unlock and lock the doors at the end of it there. That has to be done because there's nobody on site in the summertime.
Okay,
Everything closes by 3 o'clock, basically, so they need to be out by 2. So
well,
that's just something to discuss with
If,
organizations.
Well, I have another question. So if the basketball coach is coming in on a Saturday from 6 to 8, our custodian leaves at 5, but it's the coach because they have access to unlock the facility
No,
with
they
their
don't.
badge.
No.
It's their team.
No,
It's the high school team.
no, it's not.
Yeah, it's their high school team
No,
practicing.
No, it's not. It's the AAU team. We have to recognize that the high school team only practices during the high school season, whenever that's allowed.
Right. You guys said that if they had to register through AAU, they would be considered a high school team.
But
If it's
but
our high
again,
school boys.
we're doing, but that was with regards to them getting a different tier status, that was about that conversation. We cannot have staff members deciding when and where they get to unlock facilities. Am I wrong? Is that something you would want any of your coaches or staff to be
You're
able to do?
absolutely right. And this is a continuous
happen.
problem at high schools. When they coach the basketball team, they also have their own club team or AAU team or whatever. It's a battle everywhere.
Can't have it happen. I don't think, unless I'm mistaken, I don't think we authorize them to use facilities without paying for someone to come and unlock the doors. They have to be treated like an outside organization for those
have a key.
purposes. It doesn't matter.
Employee.
Because they're through the AAU, even though it's the high school team? So if it's
Yes.
just the high school
Yes.
boys through the AAU, so they can practice outside of season to get extra practice time in?
Right.
They're considered outside?
For the fact that if they want to get access to the school facilities, they don't practice during the week when there's not a janitor on site. We have someone there to unlock and lock the doors for them.
Correct.
When they're talking about coming in after hours when there's no one on site to open and close the doors, they have to, my opinion, and I think the district would agree, we could make a recommendation to the board if you want to on this. My opinion, you don't, coach, custodian, principals don't get to open facilities for reasons that are not approved. They're approved to be there, but if they're there during off hours, they have to have a custodian open and close it for them. That has to happen.
But we don't normally charge for tier 1, and in October, we approved co-curricular, we included AAU organizations to be considered.
Right,
Tier
but
one.
that was for charging for the usage of the facilities. That's not, the discussion to my mind was never about opening it at 6 o'clock when no staff members.
Yeah, we always charge for outside, custodians outside of ours.
Outside of
But-
hours.
That's what
But it is
we're
outside
talking
outside
about.
That is
hours.
exactly
So-
what we're
But
talking
But
about
the high
here.
school coaches, because they're teaching the high school team,
It's not the high school team. The high school team only operates during the high school season. It is, for all intents and
Okay.
purposes, an AAU team. We
Okay.
have to treat it like that. We have to.
okay.
Very
Okay?
informational.
It's not much different than a foundation getting a principal to unlock it on the weekends when there's no janitor there either. That just can't happen.
So what we need to do, though, is we need
And
to.
I know you don't. No one does, but.
But I'm thinking we're gonna have to create a tier 1A, because right now the fees are tied into that tier 1.
Yep.
We have a
So
tier
if they're, no, we have a tier 1 and we have a tier 2A and we
2A.
have 2B. We do not have a 1A, so that
Well, no,
would,
but-
if you
but-
go to fill it in, it's not gonna calculate any fees, because tier 1 doesn't charge any
We need
unless
to-
it's.
I would imagine that even tier 1 should probably be charged if you have to pay extra money for the custodian, no matter what. Someone should be charged. I mean, either the district is
But they
paying for it,
do.
which is the
So
case,
when they
but-
create the permit, when I go in, I have to, even when I create the invoice, I have to back out the MPR or whatever there and just bill for custodian. That's all I
you're
do.
right. I think
Right,
that
so you're
the
still billing
solution
for
is-
custodian even for tier 1. So I mean, I don't think we have
Correct.
to change anything.
Well, we're paying
Well-
for it, but is the organization paying for it?
Would they be paying for it anyway?
Yes.
That
The
actually ties
AAU
into
basketball
each-
team should have to pay
There,
for it.
I
get that
understand what
it's-
Shane's saying. So right now, they're not registering through Skyhawks, they're registering through the high school because of Skyhawk, or the high school put it in as a high school. See, that's where I couldn't tell
That's
the
where-
difference
so
between if
that's-
it was a
this-
high school
this
event
is-
or an outside high school event.
We need to get additional input on this. Okay, my position is the Skyhawks are not the high school basketball team. Even though they're every single one of them, the high school players and the high school coach, they're not the high school basketball team. Okay?
But it was
I-
and this is just a question I have, they were being sponsored by the high school.
I get that. But
Still not the high school team.
it's not the high school team. It's no different than.
So Jimmy will have to-
than-
Jimmy will help
than
me
the-
with that then.
The Wolverines are
Yay.
not the Lammersville basketball team because
Correct.
they are Lammersville Elementary School or Lammersville Unified School District students. They are an independent organization, even though every single one of them lives here in town. We have to recognize that at some point,
Yes,
it's
you're
either a school team or it's not a school team. And if it's operating outside of school hours and outside of school, We are not responsible for the AAU team. The liability issues and all the rest of that stuff belong to the Skyhawks. That's a distinction. And once we use a staff member to open a door to unlock our facilities, we've switched that. I believe that would be the easiest key to get liability out of the school district, not just for what happens in the facilities, but for the oversight and everything else. We have to treat it differently.
So to piggyback.
My opinion, it's important.
So.
I agree, but-
So if we have to have a custodian on duty,
Yes.
do we bill them for the custodian, or does the
That's-
district
I
eat the
think
custodian
yes, but again,
cost?
we can
I
talk
would
about
bill,
that.
but I would lean towards billing them. You mentioned that they are registering though as MHHS as opposed to as a Skyhawk. Isn't that also going to get around insurance requirements? Because I doubt
Oh, I collected the insurance
for
from
the
them.
Skyhawks.
Yes, I have that on file. I just don't have it in the system because it's under AMH
And we
Mountain
need
House
to
High
change
School.
that.
Yeah,
They
okay.
should, they should do it
I
yeah, under
understand.
Skyhawks.
Because again, to me, it's not any different than any other sports organization that we have here in town that are using the facilities. They're 99+% our kids. They may even be at 100% our kids, but they're not our kids at that point in time. So we need to make sure they're registered differently. I am more than happy to hear from organizations, from the district, from anybody else who thinks we shouldn't charge them, but to my opinion, we should absolutely charge them. And I think the best thing to do is tell them what we're thinking about, let them come to the next meeting, we make a recommendation to the board, because to me, this is something that I believe that the governing board should decide on whether or not,
Okay,
because
I'll
it's
bring
giving
this-
away school district resources.
We'll have to invite Lavinia Woods as well,
Why?
because she was the one who posed the question so that her teams could get, because it's not uncommon practice for other districts to have their teams practice outside
Okay, I
of the
mean-
season so they don't get sanctioned.
But
She
again-
wanted more practice time for the kids.
And I get all that, but it's not her team. I just want to point that out. It's not.
I
her team.
understand.
The coach I get coming because it's his team, but it's not a school district team when it's operating as the Skyhawks. So I want to make sure.
Okay.
Again,
Thank you.
anybody's welcome to come, but
And a distinction that I would want answered is, are we talking about facilities that are booked through the facilities' proper channels? Or are we talking about a coach just going and unlocking a building?
They go through, but they're being entered as a school site
Well,
entry, not, so that's why I couldn't tell the distinction of how many are when you're asking to pull this. So we do need, I think we need to split to a 1A. And all those fall within the 1A bracket.
Another question I would have is, does the way that we handle it affect their ability to practice and be separate from the league? Because, in other words, are we going to foil them by allowing them the same access as a high school team, even though they're not?
I don't disagree that that's a concern. I think that's an important one. So I don't know what the league rules are on that, but if we're charging custodial hours and treating them fully like an outside organization, I think that's more
And
protection.
there may be a happy medium somewhere in between that can satisfy everybody.
And so we need to bring everyone by and talk about that and make a recommendation to the board. Because again, though, I believe it's beyond this committee's ability to say, yeah, we won't charge them for custodian to bring a custodian to.
Okay, so I'll invite them, we'll invite them to the next facility meeting so you guys can talk about it in more detail.
Who to talk to? Okay, all right, I gotta figure out if I need to talk to Kirk about that too.
While we're talking about custodial work hours, I
figure it
had a question. If an outside organization uses a classroom, for instance, during school hours, has a meeting, leaves, the janitor was there on his contracted hours the entire time, and there's no extra custodial, should they still be charged for custodial? Because
I'm going to turn that one over to Jim.
No, I would say no.
And I don't think they are they?
No, I mean.
I don't start charging custodians until 2 hours prior to the end of their shift. But we were having this discussion with Alvina that even though it's 2 hours prior to the end of their shift and we're charging $27 an hour, it's not for in lieu of an additional person to clean that facility. So we're pulling them away from their regular responsibility during the normal workday to come clean up that area. So it's not, we're charging $27 an hour, but there's not a dedicated person for that $27 an hour. We're pulling the existing person who's already on site, trying to finish their job and pull them back to an area that wouldn't have had to, would have
But it's
been
supposed to be clean when they leave.
correct, but they're still having,
So they would have to, either they vacuumed it before and it has to be left in that
well,
condition.
they
when they're
get billed
gone.
$27 an hour with a minimum of 2 hours prior to close. So at 8 o'clock, I bill them,
Right.
2 hours.
But what Shane is saying, the facility should be returned in the same manner that they received it, which means they should be doing their own cleaning, and if they're not, then we should bill them.
That should be the key. If the custodians have cleaned the room,
The custodians, since we are so booked after school, they do not get to clean in between like they should.
right, and that's a problem. But, again, it's not every room they can't clean. They can go about doing other things. There's a way to schedule this, a way to make a plan on a facility, because we're not renting out every single classroom. It's
we've
a
run in-
multipurpose room for the most part.
For the last month, we have run into a problem with custodial subs and people out that we've only had single custodians closing facilities almost at every site.
And,
So that's an internal problem, but I
Well, my point would be that if there's an added cost, it should be passed on. If there's no added cost, it shouldn't be passed on.
so
I
it's
agree.
based on how it's left, is what you're saying.
Well, if,
So don't automatically bill them
Or if they have to
$27 an hour
stay
if
past their
they.
date. Let's say,
if-
for example, they're in the multipurpose room, they haven't been able to clean the multipurpose room, and they want to end at 8,
Yes.
which is when the custodian leaves. Well,
Yes.
that room's still got to get cleaned at the end of the day. There's 2 hours to add on for them to clean that. That's a distinction, to me.
Right, so if they go till 10 and nothing's left to be cleaned and the custodian just has to flip off the lights, then we don't bill them?
well, we bill them until 10.
The
Correct,
custodian
which is a
hasn't
minimum
cleaned
of
it.
2 hours.
Well, my theoretical was,
so confused.
a group comes in
Those
at
check-in, check-outs are so important,
3:30.
forms.
Well, when do our custodians leave the K-8s?
10:30 Monday through Thursday, 10 o'clock on Friday.
Okay, so somebody comes in to a classroom at 4 o'clock for a meeting, uses it for an hour, leaves. The custodian was there the whole time. The room was either cleaned or not cleaned prior to them coming in, but there's no mess left. It's in the same condition
Right.
that they found it.
But we don't bill them until 8 p.m.,
So
8:30
so
p.m.
they wouldn't be billed
Correct,
at all
correct,
for custodial?
yes.
Okay.
And it really is a function of we're billing them if we have to potentially go past hours.
Correct.
Yeah, if for some reason they leave the multi completely trashed and the custodian has to stay an extra hour or two to clean up, then that is something you would bill them for. But in my experience, we don't, if it's during their normal shift, we don't bill them.
You just clean a different pattern that day.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way it works.
You just adjust your schedule
Address them.
and, maybe you do the multi last instead of first or whatever it is. Yeah. You
It's
make
almost a
adjustments in your schedule.
case-by-case kind of thing. think we just have to find out which organizations we might be having trouble with.
And if that's, I happen to think that that's probably the bigger function is the check-in and check-out has left us with a recognition that people may not have been taking care of the facilities the way they were supposed to. And that would be my answer is, if you left it in worse condition than you got it, you're paying for it. Because
right.
even though he had to clean it or she had to clean it afterward anyway, they are doing more work somehow. There's got to be some amount of compensation for that because we're cleaning up after you.
That was
That's
brought
my
to my,
opinion.
sorry, Shane.
No,
That was
go
brought
ahead.
to my attention from Ms. Rosario at the Bethany site. She explained to me that she's doing a lot of double work behind different
I
organizations.
see. And it
And
needs to be noted on the check-out,
Yes.
check-in forms
a lot of trash.
when that happens.
And
That's
then-
happening, we charge
It
them.
even says here, you're responsible for collecting and disposing of litter, trash, or garbage generated by your activity and it does not fit into the receptacles provided. The user will be charged the actual cost of cleanup if litter, trash, or garbage remains on campus.
That should be the rule.
That should be
We just have to have the
enforced.
custodial staff
And
letting
also,
you know.
someone's been tinkering with the AC. When I walk in the morning into the cafeteria, it's like a sauna. It's like that hot yoga.
Do they not
class
have
I used to
keys?
take. It's burning up in there.
Which site
I
is
don't know
this?
either what to look into it at Bethany.
Yeah, it's an oven in there.
It should be locked out. It shouldn't have any ability to adjust them. We have an EMS system. There shouldn't have any. The only thing they should be able to hit is a bypass button on the thermostat, which will either run an hour or 2 hours, however it's set up. But they shouldn't be able to.
Okay, so maybe it's
That's
just
it.
acting up. It's just been in the last week or so. But it's like, whoa, when we get in there.
It could be that the heater was on because it was winter and then it was warm last week. I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
It's something to look at.
That sounds like a control issue, not a user group.
Yeah, because me and Rosario were like, maybe somebody's tinkering with it.
Just
or,
in the multi, you said?
In the multi, yes. Yes, I get there in the morning to serve the kids breakfast. And when I get in there, the our lunch lady is like, it's burning up in here, and I'm like, I know. So,
Okay. So I think, so we've at least addressed the way that's supposed to be operating, and it's probably just a function of talking to the staff and letting them know, if there's something they actually have to do, just make a note. And if they want to gripe about it, this is the thing too, if the organization wants to gripe about it, they don't gripe to the custodian, they come here. We're going to charge you for it because the custodian said so, come talk to us about it. That's our job, that's not their
Well,
job.
what I've done in the past is usually groups that are having issues, I meet with them
There you
one-on-one
go.
and
That's
pull them
fine
in and sit with them and say,
I'm okay with that too.
we're having a problem with you leaving the trash in the school, blah, 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 kind of give them a little warning that just, you need to clean it up, and
We
if
have
they
enough
don't,
organizations wanting
then
to use our
we have the ability
facilities.
to, yank their permit, they're not gonna
Exactly right.
take care of the school,
I
so.
totally agree. All right, excellent. Anything else on that one?
No. We're on F.
We are on F, reservation dates valid with certificate of insurance dates.
We discussed this at the last meeting, and I know you were going to check, I'm looking at the organizations over there, about how easy it was to change the dates of an annual,
I
certificate
think I
of
completely
insurance.
forgot to check. I'm sorry.
I actually feel really good that you said that. 'cause
I want to say I emailed.
I missed my job up from a month and a half
Yeah,
ago.
I want to say I emailed someone and they didn't get back to me. Let me check.
I think there was an email to Kristen.
Yeah.
Because I think
The
that would
secretary, I totally
help
forgot to remind her.
avoid the
She did
following
just
up
come
and
on.
rechecking.
Okay. Yeah,
Just
I
try to
agree. I should
simplify
check.
the
I'll
whole-
message her again.
Okay, thank you. That will return at the next agenda.
Action items for CAM Learning Center.
This organization usually submits a request to use a classroom or two over the summer. And we know that they enroll a lot of our kids, and so, I'm recommending approval.
And she said she was flexible with site because she knew ESY, may change location. And we try to schedule them in tandem with ESY so that we're only running the AC during that same time. She said she was flexible. She just couldn't be here tonight.
Do we know where ESY might be?
Don't know yet.
I have no idea.
I'm just curious because I work it every year, so I was just curious. I like walking to work. I like it in Wickland.
Yeah, but don't we have issues in the Wickland multipurpose room that we have to get to this year again?
She doesn't want the multi-use. She uses a classroom.
Right,
She-
but it would be a function of we may not be on site because we can't use the multipurpose room on Wickland. I thought there was something going on. Maybe I'm thinking a different school. I can't remember anymore. Or you know what? It just is every
now.
year
We're
we have
okay.
problems in the Wickland multipurpose room anyway. I may just be anticipating that. there's
No,
a
we're
problem,
fine.
so. No, she's been, her organization's been great. I don't have any problems with it, so
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
we don't have to do this with a formal motion or anything. Anyone agree, anyone against? No? All right, cool. Approved. Let her know. Thank her very much.
So future agenda items, obviously,
about most of
the
those.
food service, labor law, right, work schedules, the site and the foundations and providing training, changing the potential
Decentralizing the
process.
process.
And then the last one was the potential of creating a tier 1A to address those AAU organizations.
Anything else you guys want to add to the agenda for next meeting?
Oh, and reservation dates, that needs to be added too.
Yeah.
Have we finalized the proposal on the lockout discussion?
No, I
We've
guess,
talked about it and people not liking it and stuff like that, and I wonder if we want to talk about that again, whether or not to have,
are you referring to the beginning of the school year and that lockout? Well, if we end up changing the
but
process,
that's why I want to talk about it again. If we're going to change the process, do we need to keep that 30-day lockout? We were talking about changing that whole thing
maybe we need
around.
to talk to
Jim,
them
how did you
about it.
guys do it in Notomus?
Yes.
How did you guys do it in Notomus?
That was Jimmy.
We would lock out, with the schools blocked out for how long?
30 days.
Ooh, that's a lot.
That's why I'm asking.
Besides time to get all of this.
No, I mean, normally it's like maybe the week before school starts and the first week of school, that's it. I mean, that's it.
I
That
want
little
to
2-week
put
window.
that proposal to change the handbook on the agenda
I
to
think
discuss
Jimmy and I
that.
will actually sit and go through our handbook,
Great.
and now is the time to start, because we need to approve it in June. Remember the new handbook?
that's what I'm
So
saying.
we'll go through, highlight, make some
We
notes,
got a
and make
couple
some
of meetings before we can approve it,
recommendations.
so I'd like to at least address this, because I agree, 30 days is an awful long
That's a lot.
time. And the foundations aren't, and other organizations aren't getting much time to be able to set up their stuff too, so.
I usually don't let the custodial side off that 2-week window too, the week before a week of school. So it kind of makes sense that maybe user
So
groups.
bring that back,
Give us a
and
little-
any other recommendations, if you,
Yeah, we'll
this
go
is
through
the
the
time
handbook.
to look at,
Okay.
for the next month, for April and May's meeting, to talk about any big changes you want to make, so you
That
can bring in
seems
as
reasonable
discussion
to me.
items.
Yeah, well,
Anything else you guys want to have on the agenda?
We could talk about the kitchen costs. Did you say that already? The possible cost for renting the kitchens?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was the first one.
You did say that? Oh, okay.
I noted his work schedule and labor law.
Oh, yeah, we got a whole bunch of stuff on
It's a
the
whole
kitchen.
No,
bunch
no,
of
I mean-
pieces tied into that.
No, I meant like the cost for the high school kitchens.
Oh,
Yeah, we need to address the kitchens in a wholesale way.
I know we don't want to do it for like another 6 months or so, but
No, but
we're gonna
it's-
have to talk about it eventually, I think.
We need to.
I do.
Winding down.
How you could handle it, you know how you do the high school track separately, you could do the high school kitchen separately with its own rules and,
Right, well, we'll have to, but we have to decide.
Yeah.
We'll get
But
some
you were gonna bring
feedback from
in,
Bernie.
you're gonna email them the costs that you've got from other districts for.
Yeah, well, I didn't call other districts, I called, local, facilities in Tracy, like the Moose Lodge and St. Bernard's and,
Okay, well, that's true, because she said Tracy didn't even rent out their district.
Yeah.
Could we,
they were, actually, they're gonna.
Rent out the kitchens.
no, I mean, ask Bernie, just to find out any of the districts. She found out 80% of them do rent out the
Right, she
kitchens.
did.
Just, what are they charging? You know, what are they charging for? What are they charging minimums? That kind of stuff. It'd be good to find out. Because I worry that privates or cities may charge significantly more than the district is looking to charge. Because they're looking to help support programs and projects.
I think the reason we wanted to look at it was because we want to ensure that we're not undercharging. Because we don't
Right.
want to encourage everyone to use our kitchen, but we don't want to discourage people from using
So
it
you're right, we want to
either.
find a good
So
middle ground. So
we
if we
want a
could,
good
Todd,
medium.
have Bernie contact the districts that do rent out their facilities and find out what they're charging too. That way we can compare the two and try to find.
Yeah, I mean, the community center from Tracy's probably the most likely comparison at
I
this
didn't know
point.
they had a
But
full kitchen there.
yeah, apparently they do.
Okay, so the kitchen discussion, including the staff and that kind of stuff, will be on the agenda as well.
Yes.
Anyone else? Anything else?
Nope.
Jimmy, no? Then I will say, let's go home at 7:50.
Set a meeting date, or do we?
Oh, do we have, we don't have a future meeting date. When do we want to meet, party people? Do we want to avoid Tuesdays? Does Ben need to come back to the next one?
Oh, that's right.
You don't need Ben again
We
until
don't need Ben at the next one.
until
Unless
May.
unless he has something to say about AAU, but maybe not. Because that other separate.
See what Lavinia could speak for him if
She
she
could.
needed to. Not again that I'm discouraging from coming, not that.
I cannot do the 12th.
I cannot either. My son has an appointment
There is
that
that May
day.
12th.
I'm not doing that again.
Do I even?
Just scheduled two for him. He's checking right now his calendar.
I'm open. I'm open like every other day.
School foundation election day?
Yeah, school foundation election day.
Nice.
I think all of
voting
the
for yourself
committees are
again?
once a month.
I am not going to be running.
That's not what I heard.
Four of them.
Wrong election.
And then add
Oh,
another one.
that's right, that's right. Yeah. Hold on, I gotta look. When is
What day is today?
the 8th?
Probably the 5th would make the most sense then, right? We tend to go about a month out. We can push that though if we want to. We could start going like every 6 weeks or something for, at this point, I know there's a ton to discuss, but
Well, these two, the next two meetings, we kind of have to have consistent. The next 2 months is after June, we can change it because the new handbook goes to the board by June. So we'll have to have an April meeting, we'll have to have a May meeting.
Yes, we will.
But then after May, we can really back it down because again, we've done the handbook. Not so much stuff during the summertime, and it wouldn't be till August that we really start to ramp up again. So we could probably skip a June meeting.
then I'm open any day the first week or
We
if
could do
that's,
the 5th, is with the 5th?
We're doing April
Is that
5th?
what we're talking about?
yeah, that's what I was looking at.
6:30.
That should be fun. 6:30, right here, same bat time,
Please.
same bat channel. Too bad, I'm already scored. All right, now officially at 7:53 PM. Just, I'm not,
He does.
I don't gavel. I'm not the gavel guy, no.